Hi there, it's Mare. I have two Sanditon related Jane Austen journals to show you today real quick. I'm going to do some flip throughs and one of a soft cover, one of a hard cover. But before I forget, if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell below to be updated on any new videos that I should post. This one is a soft cover, softish cover, but it's pretty firm this way, but it's flexible, real flexible. I used Tyvek in the spine. I've made this pretty dangle charm with a little pink crystal glass heart. And all the tones of this journal are pink and gold with a little touch of blue. I've tried to make it real feminine looking. I've used new and used laces. This has it's a pink material with just a gold undertone, little sheen on there, as well as the lace has gold in it as well. I just embellished this metal label. It says Charlotte there. Used some stickles and some gilding polish. And it has a muslin closure here, just tied. That is the back. It will be available in my Etsy shop. I have two, and but to check for availability, just click the link in the description box. I will also, to my Etsy shop, and I will also put any of the Etsy shop digitals that I may have used. I try to remember and recall all of them, but I do have a long list of shops, and just look them up on Etsy and you will be able to see where I purchased some of the things that I've used. Okay, let's get started. This has approximately 86 pages. It is 10 by 6 1/4. I will open it this way. That's 86 pages front to back, by the way. Okay. There we go. Just put a pocket here. This is vintage lace. I did embellish with some bits of glitter that probably don't show up very well on camera. But just so you know, I did put some shimmer along this frame that I made. And so I stitched in a few areas, and there's a bow and some embellishment with little rhinestones as the flames for that chandelier. A little embellishment here and here. This is open right here, so you could put a photo there if you'd like to. And this is a journal card here with a fabric front of this library card for Sanditon. The back has areas on both of these for journaling. Pretty paper here. Sticker embellishment here. I made this little V pocket with some sari silk with a bow. Little rose charm there. Little journaling card here. It looked like a quilt, which is really pretty. Little bits of purple. And this is just a copy of a picture from a Jane Austen book that I have. And it is a patchwork quilt that Jane and her sister and her mother worked on. This is the town for Charlotte, the main character in Sanditon. Well, one of them. Here are her initials in these little charms. CH with a little pink dangle. Just sewed some vintage and new laces together for an embellishment. This is some natural white paper. Very nice texture. Made a pocket here with this ruffle, little bow. Journaling card here with a little bit of rhinestones on that. A little embellishment for the back and some trim up here with some pearls. This is a copy of a vintage receipt that I own from 1889. It speaks of carriages, which I thought was really neat because in the story there is a big carriage scene, and also later you see carriages throughout. Just did some embossing here. This is an authentic vintage receipt, I believe, from 1866. A little fabric flip here. This is fabric that has Jane Austen's handwriting on it, and just this extra little embellishment here. You could also pin a little word or a quote. That would be pretty. A little vintage doily up here, vintage lace here. There's some pink tulle with this trim. It's all new trim, I believe. This is just a digital here with little pink roses. Just a little Prima butterfly with a sticker. Sanditon book page. Sewed some trim on this. Trim here. Trim also there. And this little clasp here I thought was really cute. And there's some more of that gold tone in that lace with a little little charm. Any of the pages that I felt were very thin, like I do in most of my journals, I do just help support that. There's some lines here, some line paper. This is one of, I believe, 4 that come in a set. This is from a copy of a drawing, and you buy these postcards. And I'm not going to name everybody, but this particular lady she's just so talented, and it's Busy Fee Craft. Busy Fee Art. There we go. On Etsy, I will have that name in the description box. This is a picture of the actress who played Charlotte, and that is her in costume. And you could just keep it as a keepsake or journal on the back if you like. I did put some backing on this for this window and decorated around it. Put some lace there, and that just fits in there. I didn't want to ruin it, but I just thought, wow, that's just amazing. How talented. And there's just a little Charlotte file folder that I put a gold paper clip. This is a vintage postcard. I just thought it reminded me because Charlotte lived in the country. And it's a little country scene. Areas for journaling here and here with some embellishment. Some more paper here. I just put little photo corners here. And that is a copy of an Austen library card that I've backed here. And I just put that in there. You could also put a picture there as well. There's some of that Tim Holtz wallpaper. On the book page, this flips up. And the label here is memory. And I just did some decoupage on that hinge. Some vintage lace here at the bottom. Little dress that I made reminded me of the colors and the style of a dress that she wore in the show. A little copy of a paper here of a pencil portrait by Jane Austen of her favorite niece, Fanny. Yeah, look how talented. And it just fits in that pocket. A little journal card here. Put some fabric on the ends here. It softens up the page, I believe. A little doily here. Just made this embellished this little envelope. Did some stamping and added some gold. I did gold leafing on a lot of this. And a little altered playing card that I made with an area for a word or a quote. Put some nice pretty font in the back. There we go. If you can tell on the edges, I did some gold leafing on the edges of most of the pages that I could get to. It's more of that, there's some glitter here, more of that pretty vintage lace here sewn in. I just like the look of the stitching. Can't do it on every page, but I do like to add that if I can. This said Seaside Resort because that's what Sanditon is. And it's just a tuck spot. And I just added this stamp and covered this with some parchment paper. It's a postcard. Lots of area for journaling. That says Dreaming of the Sea, and there's 2 shells that dangle from it. And it just sits up in there. Put a nice ruffle here in between the signatures. And there's a Sanditon book page that I created with these backgrounds that I purchased. There's a little bit of font writing there, pretty font writing, and a chandelier. Some coffee dyed paper, book page with a little bit of, there we go, a little bit of an applique there. That one's white. This says invitation, so it takes you through where Lady D in the Sanditon series invited them to a luncheon, I think, in honor of one of the characters. There's a little pineapple here. This reminded me a lot. I got this from a vintage book. It has some gold leafing on the edges. It reminded me of the scene of the table. So I put that in there. You can journal at the back. Here is a vintage postcard that just reminded me of Lady D's house. Very wealthy woman. And this also is a vintage postcard, and obviously this is a castle, but it just reminded me of the elegance of Lady D's mansion. So I'll put those in there. Got some avocado dyed paper in there. It says Dear Jane. It's just a vintage letter as a digital. I put these two pieces together from a digital and created this frame. It has some gold leafing around the edges here and a little Regency picture there. Here's one that comes in the group of 4, and that is actor Theo James, who is portraying Sidney Parker in the television show. Here's just a little flip that I decoupaged some paper. Little vintage button there, and that flips up. Little sewing here. It says Love Duet. Little vintage copy of a vintage music page, and some trim here. Really pink feminine trim. Vintage, a digital for both of these for some journal cards. Pretty pink pocket with some pink parchment paper, coffee dyed here. And in both of these, this side has just some pretty stationery paper. It was a digital. Again, I'll have that listed in the description box of the video. And this, I took a picture of some postcards of Jane Austen's living area, and I just put it on the back of this, some cardstock, and it does show that this is Jane Austen's writing corner in the cottage where she lived. So I thought those two things were very fitting. Pretty big, roomy, I should say, pockets. And here is a picture of her cottage, and some areas for journaling on the back if you like, and some really pretty paper. It just really, I think, really went with the colors that I was using. So again, lots of area there. Okay. There we go. And in the middle of the signatures, I did put some dangly charms there. There's an envelope and gold tone metal, and a little crystal that's pink with a bow, and a little pen nib there, and another crystal that I put together for a little charm, Here is a London, had something to do with the story as well. Little carriage picture for a journal card, a vintage London postcard that is used, but you could also put a little piece of paper there if you wanted to journal on it yourself. And I used some Bird Waltz, Blue Fern Studios paper. And this is an insert that I created out of some book pages. I did some decoupage with some tissue paper. I used some gold leafing around the edges. There's a little stitching on this one. Mrs. Cogs print there. And I used some gold applique, and I just really thinned out the sari ribbon. I wanted it to be nice and delicate. Open it up, and it is a scene, or I tried to depict a scene from the television series. Created this little gold dress. It is on like cardstock, so I could tuck something behind it, and that's just a copy of a vintage ball invitation. Some string there with a little mask that I made. The mask itself is metal, and I just embellished it and put this little rod here for the handle. Added these to the picture. They were different separate images, digital images that I put together. A little quote from the television series, and a couple of candelabra and lighting for journaling cards here. That way, you know, Charlotte's story isn't over. So if it continues and whoever gets this journal doesn't want to keep the first season stuff in there, there's room to grow or change if you like. Just a little flip up here, some stitching over that, a little persuasion quote there. Journal card. And this is, oh, I put this little lady up here in the corner of this paper. And this is one of the other pieces of art that has been copied with a postcard feel to it, and a little quote from the first season of Sanditon. Created this bookmark out of some different elements, putting them together. Did a little alcohol marker coloring there. This gold paper clip holds these in. There's a little, let me try to get a little closer here. Little sandcastle charm with a paper boat. They're both metal charms, but it has to do with the season 1. Little quote there that was used. And here's just a little image that just reminded me of the regatta that they had. Here's another one of the beautiful pictures. Made another dress here that resembles the dress that Charlotte wore during that event, and the little jacket that went over it. Did some decoupage with some rice paper, a little pearlescent shimmer there, and just a couple of journaling cards there. Book page with some embossing. Some little stenciling. Here's just a little card that I made with a little horse and carriage, and it flips up. And here's just a little tuck spot with a couple of journaling cards there. I put some gesso over the back of this paper just to soften it a little bit, and you can write where the gesso areas are. Put a picture there. Made this little piece. I put some gold leafing around it. It's a tuck spot, little sticker, little inking, and a few more journaling cards here. And I did put some gold leafing around that as well. And I just love the paper. Here's some of that vintage lace here. There is some glitter sparkle on there. And that is it. Now we'll be able to go through the small one a little quicker, because it has a lot of the same elements. So this one says Charlotte on it here. This one says Sanditon in general. This one is approximately 8 by 5.5, and it has approximately 84 pages front to back. It is very chunky. Most of my journals are. It may not be your thing, but that's how I do it, and I like it like that. I like it stuffed full of things. It has 2 signatures, Tyvek in the spine. Here's this dangle that I put together for here. There's one of those little heart charms here, and some stone here, different color pinks. Same with here. It just did some extra embellishing to the metal here and here. Pinks and golds, blues. I did have a touch of purple in the other one, I noticed. and just very feminine. This has a little bit of some vintage lace over this really pretty pink floral paper. Some trim here and here. This has rhinestones in it. There's a little journaling card here. That same library card there. Here's a frame that's a little smaller in size to fit the size of this journal. A little embellishing here, some glossy accents on here, some embroidered flowers both here and here, and a little shimmer on the paper. This does have an area you can slip a photograph over that if you like. Pretty paper, doily, this little envelope here, a little piece of rice paper, parchment, little pocket in the V with the rose dangle and a bow. That reminded me of where Charlotte might have grew up, in the country. It's a vintage postcard, another picture, copy of the picture from the Jane Austen book. Here is a vintage receipt from 1859. That's an original glassing bag that I have altered here and put this really pretty picture here, a little gold leafing around it. Here's that quilt photograph, as well as another postcard here, vintage. Some of that wallpaper. Here are your journaling cards, vintage Dewey Decimal that I've put on copied and placed on an index card. Another carriage receipt here, some applique. This one's gold here, and some really pretty pink ruffle trim there. Did some sewing in this one as well. Pretty digital here. Same flip up with those initials, CH. Little Charlotte file folder here with that same window envelope with the artist's portrayal of Charlotte there. Areas for journaling, both here and here. Did some gold leafing on the edges here. An area for a tuck if you like. Just some embossing with the gold, the book page, some stamping. That natural white paper. There's some lace trim here. Little gold key on this really pretty journaling card. With a flip up here, and a pretty rose there. And that has Northanger Abbey there. There's that first dress. And there's just a little embellishment I did there. And that just flips this way. And I did two little pieces. There's a back card piece here that pulls out. Also the altered playing card. And it sits up front. There we go. Be a nice spot to put a little something there to, if you wanted to hide a little note. I just really am glad the way that turned out. There's that ruffle in the beginning. Let me show you. There we go. There is, oh, I missed a dangle. I will put something on that. There's a pink dangle here in that center. All right, so for this signature, and there's your Seaside Resort tuck. With the same postcard here, Dreaming of the Sea, same charms here. This one is pink for that one, and like a white color there. Sanditon page. Here is the invitation page with, let's see, two vintage postcards and that same picture. And there's the little pineapple. There's some pretty trims on the edge of the pages. There's that same frame photo. There is a little charm here on a gold safety pin and some very pretty trim. The Love Duet page, and there is Sydney Parker, played by Theo James. That's the other photo. Some pretty paper here. I've got the Jane Austen pictures with the same same, this one will be a little shorter, just folded different. But it's the same paper with the same cards, postcards. Vintage postcard of London with a carriage and a little London embellishment. Here is a tuck. There is the center insert with the gold leafing, gold applique, and the same seam. There's one of the other pictures with some really pretty pink trim here. A pocket has a little card here, and another journaling card back here. Cardstock. This lady here is larger than in the other picture. I think it's very pretty. And this has the little quote on here with two pictures that reminded me of the regatta. And here's just an area for journaling. So I put that back in here. And here are your charms. Oh, sorry, okay. I had to fix something. Oh, I'll have to put that back in there. It's a little heart. Here's the other dress with the other postcard. Page here. Some embossing there. And here's your flip up card. In the back, that has a really pretty journaling card back here. And that trim up there with the rhinestones. There is glitter in little bits of area in this one too. And that is the back. Okay, to check availability, like I said, I'll put the link in the description box. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.